The night Amara was born was the kind that made elders mutter about signs and omens. Thunder cracked through the sky like angry spirits, and rain fell so heavily that the midwife feared the roof would give way. Inside the mud house, Amara's mother, Nena, struggled for breath. Her labor had lasted almost a full day, and exhaustion had drained every bit of strength left in her. When the baby finally arrived, small, quiet, and with eyes too large for her tiny face, her father, Okafor, looked at her for only a moment before turning away. "A girl," he said flatly, wiping sweat from his brow. After all this suffering? The midwife placed the crying newborn in his arms, but he didn't hold her. Instead, he stepped back, refusing to touch her. Nena, breathing heavily, whispered, "Bring her to me." The baby was placed in her weak arms. She smiled faintly and kissed the child's forehead. "She is beautiful," she said softly. But outside, village women who had gathered under the rain to support whispered their own version of the event. "She is too quiet. That girl will bring trouble. She has the eyes of someone who sees too much. No man will ever want a girl like that." It was on that stormy night, before she even took her first breath properly, that the sentence was passed. No man wanted her. And so her life began, unwanted by her father, feared by neighbors, and pitted by women who believed she was born with a curse. Amara grew up like a stranger in her own home. When she was 5, her mother died from an illness no one understood. The village healer said it was her time, but some of the villagers whispered something darker. Her daughter drained her life. Her father remarried soon after. Urena, her stepmother, arrived with smooth skin, sharp eyes, and a heart that left no room for another woman's child. From the first day, Urena made it clear, "Stay out of my way." The chores multiplied. Amara swept the compound, fetched water, washed clothes, cooked food she was rarely allowed to eat from, and still received nothing but scolding. "You are too slow. You think too much. Why do you look at people with those strange eyes?" The only warm presence in her life was her younger half-brother, Chitty. He was the only one who smiled at her, who shared food with her, who defended her. One night, when Amara was 10, Urena complained loudly to Okafor. "That girl is a burden. She is not my child. She is not even fit for marriage. No man will want her." Amara heard every word. She curled up on her mat, hugging herself tightly. She had been in the world for only 10 years, and yet she already understood what it meant to be unwanted. When Amara turned 16, her beauty began to bloom, but not in the way the village valued. She wasn't light-skinned like Urena or full-figured like the other maidens. She was slender, tall, and carried a quietness that made some people uncomfortable. The market women whispered whenever she passed, "Look at her eyes, too sharp. She doesn't smile. How will she attract a husband? She is pretty, but she carries a strange aura." Their words sank into her like stones into water. One afternoon, Needy, the most admired girl in the village, approached her at the stream. "Amara," she said with a mocking smile, "why don't you talk to the boys? Or are you waiting for a man from heaven to want you?" The other girls laughed. Amara smiled faintly and continued washing her clothes. She had learned long ago that silence was her shield. But deep inside, she longed to be seen, to be loved, to be wanted by someone. Just once. In the shadows of the hurt she carried, Amara discovered a small spark of joy. Sewing. At first, she stitched old wrappers and rags, learning by observation and instinct. Her hands, though rough from chores, were gentle with fabric. Thread and cloth became her escape from the world that never embraced her. Every night she sewed by the dim light of a kerosene lamp. Every new stitch felt like hope. Every finished piece was a promise to herself that life could be different. She dreamed of one day opening a shop in the city, creating designs that celebrated women of all kinds, even the ones society threw away. But she kept her dream a secret. Dreams felt dangerous in a house where she wasn't allowed to want anything. The Palm Wine Festival was the highlight of Aziga village, the time when maidens were chosen to dance and, sometimes, to meet future husbands. All year, girls prepared their best wrappers, jewelry, and hairstyles. Except Amara. She knew she wasn't going to be chosen. She didn't even bother hoping. But still, the rejection stung when the selection was announced. Names were called. Needy, Adiz, Ifyananya, Chisholm. Then silence. Amara stood in the crowd unnoticed. Needy walked past her with a triumphant smile. "Did you think they would pick you?" she whispered. "Even the spirits know no man wants you." The girls around her laughed cruelly. Amara held her breath, swallowed her tears, and walked home alone. Not for the first time, not for the last, she wished she could disappear. One calm evening, while fetching water at the stream, Amara met a stranger. He was tall, dressed like a traveler, with warm eyes and a tired smile. "Good evening," he greeted. She hesitated. People rarely spoke kindly to her. "Good evening," she replied softly. The man introduced himself. "My name is Obi. I'm a trader passing through. Are you from this village?" Amara nodded. "You must be a quiet one," he said gently. "Your eyes, they look like they've seen more than your age." For the first time in a long while, Amara smiled. They talked for a while, about the city, fabrics, God, and dreams. Obi listened. He didn't rush her. He didn't mock her silence. It was the first time a man looked at her with kindness. But kindness does not survive long in small villages. The next day, rumors spread like wildfire. Amara is trying to trap the trader. She is desperate for a husband. She bewitched him with her strange eyes. Fearful of trouble, Obi left the village before dawn. Amara returned to being the girl no man wanted, now with a fresh wound she didn't know how to heal. When Urena heard the rumors, she exploded. "You want to disgrace this family? Who do you think you are? A man stopped to talk to you and you think you're special." Amara tried to explain, but Urena slapped her. "Liar! No man will ever want you. Remember that." Her father said nothing. He sat in silence, refusing to look at her. That night, Amara cried until her chest hurt. She pressed a pillow to her face so no one would hear her sobs. She realized something painful. If she stayed in this village, she would die slowly, not physically, but inside. The moon was full the night Amara decided to leave. She packed her worn clothes, her small savings from secretly sewing for neighbors, and her precious sewing kit. Before dawn, she went to Chitty's room. He woke up and stared at her with wide eyes. "Sister, are you leaving me?" Amara knelt and hugged him tightly. "I have to, Chitty. If I stay here, I will never have a life." Chitty began to cry. "Promise you won't forget me," he whispered. Amara kissed his forehead. "I can never forget you." She walked away before her courage failed. With each step toward the unknown, she whispered, "I will not die unwanted." Enugu was everything the village wasn't: loud, colorful, risky, alive. The city overwhelmed her at first. People pushed, shouted, traded. Cars honked. Hawkers called out prices. Children ran barefoot on busy streets. Amara wandered for hours, unsure where to go. As night approached, she found shelter in a church compound where a kind middle-aged woman named Mama Nkechi worked with young girls in need. "You look lost, my child," Mama Nkechi said. Amara broke down crying in her arms. Mama Nkechi brought her inside, fed her, gave her a bed, and said words Amara had never heard in her life. "You're safe here." For the first time, Amara slept peacefully. One day, Mama Nkechi noticed Amara sewing a torn pillowcase. "Who taught you that?" she asked. "No one," Amara replied shyly. "I just practiced." Impressed, Mama Nkechi took her to a small tailoring shop owned by Madame Clara, a strict but fair woman. "This girl has a gift," Mama Nkechi said. "Help her grow it." Madame Clara agreed to train Amara in exchange for work. From then on, Amara spent her days learning how to take measurements, cut fabric, use a sewing machine, design patterns, and serve customers. She worked harder than anyone else. She absorbed everything. She improved quickly. She stitched her pain into beautiful clothes. Soon customers returned saying, "Let that quiet girl sew mine." For the first time, Amara felt wanted not as a wife, not as a burden, but as a creator. Months passed. Amara became the best tailor in the shop. Even Madame Clara admitted, Her confidence grew. She walked taller. She spoke more. She smiled often. She earned small money and bought better clothes. She started looking like the woman she had always wanted to become. And yet, sometimes when she looked in the mirror, she still heard the echoes of her village. No man wants you. You are cursed. But every new dress she sewed stitched over those wounds. Little by little, the shadows of her past grew lighter. Kenichi entered her life on a warm Friday afternoon. He came to the shop holding a torn shirt. "Good afternoon," he said with a warm smile. "Can it be fixed?" Amara nodded and took the shirt from him. Something in his eyes made her heart flutter, a feeling she didn't understand. Kenichi became a regular customer, and then a regular visitor, and then something more. He brought snacks for the workers. He stayed to chat. He asked Amara about her dreams. She kept her distance at first, afraid of the same heartbreak she felt with Obi, but Kenichi was gentle, patient, and kind. One evening he told her, "You look like someone who survived a storm and came out stronger." Amara felt seen, truly seen for the first time. Word of Amara's success reached the village, and suddenly everything changed. Her father arrived in Enugu unannounced, acting as if he cared. "My daughter," he said, "your family needs help." Urena wrote letters filled with false affection. Even the villagers who once mocked her now pretended they always believed she would succeed. But Amara had learned to recognize fake love. She refused to send money. She refused to visit. She refused to bend. "You had your chance," she said quietly. "I have forgiven you, but I will not return to the place that broke me." Kenichi had been waiting patiently. One evening, he took her to a quiet restaurant and said, "Amara, I love you." She froze. "No man has ever said that to me," she whispered. "I am not no man," he replied gently. "I see your strength. I see your heart. I want a future with you." Amara's eyes filled with tears. Her heart wanted to say yes, but fear held her back. She asked for time, and Kenichi agreed. Just as her heart was opening, trouble struck. Kenichi's ex-fiancé, Ifeoma, returned to the city and began spreading rumors. Amara is using charm. She is a village girl nobody wanted. She is beneath him. The words hurt. They reminded Amara of every insult she had ever heard. She withdrew. She avoided Kenichi. She doubted her worth again. But Mama Nkechi told her, "Don't let lies pull you back into the pit you escaped. You are not that girl anymore." Those words began to restore her courage. Amara confronted the gossip head-on. She walked into the restaurant where Ifeoma and her friends sat and said, "I am not ashamed of where I came from. I have been unwanted before, but I am not anymore. Your words cannot break me." People turned to stare. But instead of laughing, they murmured in admiration. Ifeoma, embarrassed, had no reply. Amara walked out with her head high. It was the first time she fought for herself publicly, and the victory tasted sweet. Amara realized she could not build a future while her past remained unhealed. She traveled back to Ezigu, not to stay, but to close the chapter. When she entered the compound, her father broke down in tears. "My daughter, forgive me. I did not know your worth." Urena kept quiet, unable to meet her eyes. Amara simply said, "I forgive you both, but I will not remain here. My life is in the city." She hugged Chitty tightly. He had grown taller. He promised to visit her soon. Amara walked away without looking back. Back in Enugu, Amara opened her own fashion shop. Amara's Touch, where every woman matters. The shop became popular. Women came not only for clothes, but for the warmth and encouragement Amara offered. She hired girls from difficult backgrounds, giving them what she never had, opportunity. She became a symbol of strength and resilience. People forgot she was once the girl no man wanted. Kenichi returned one evening with the same gentle smile. "Amara," he said, "I still want you, but only if you want me to." Amara took his hand. "I want you," she said. "Not because I need someone to want me, but because I choose love now." Kenichi hugged her tightly, and for the first time, Amara allowed herself to feel fully loved. They planned their wedding simply, nothing extravagant, just family, friends, and gratitude for the journey that brought them together. On her wedding day, Amara stood before the mirror wearing a white gown she sewed herself. Mom Nkechi walked in and whispered, "See how far you've come, my child." Amara smiled at her reflection. She no longer saw the unwanted girl from Ezigu. She saw a woman who survived storms, silence, rejection, loneliness, and lies, and still bloomed. As she walked down the aisle toward Kenichi, she whispered to herself, "No man wanted me until I wanted myself." And that more than marriage, more than success, was her true freedom.